Today, I want a pivot to the entrepreneurial movement that's happening in accounting firms. It started in corporate world, this phrase intrapreneur, which is the innovative business owner type. We are in a world where technology is eating up compliance and AI is taking over everything. We're in a world where private equity is setting the pace and changing the way we run accounting businesses. Entrepreneurial thinking in this world is not a luxury, it is a necessity. So if you still play not to lose, it's very dangerous. It's too risky to play it safe now. So we've got to think more entrepreneurially. That's how you maintain your relevance and your influence. As an accounting professional, do you think of yourself as an entrepreneur? Probably not, because you're likely not a business owner. However, there might be an entrepreneurial wake-up call coming for accountants and accounting firms. This is the Accounting Influencers podcast, giving you what you need to be more influential and relevant and lead better in accounting environments. So here's a thought. What if sticking to what's always worked in accounting might be the very thing that kills you, your firm, your relevance, your impact? I'm always blunt on this show. A traditional model of accounting, we know it's under siege. We know the brand of accounting is under pressure. We know people are scrutinizing accounting as a career choice. We know that compliance is being automated. There's downward pressure on fees. Margins are thinning. Private equity is circling. We've talked a lot about that on this show. And the biggest risk facing accounting firms and the professionals in them might not be talent or tech. It might be a lack of entrepreneurial thinking, might be a lack of innovation. Let's let that sink in for a moment. A profession that's built on stability, accuracy, aversion to risk is now being asked to behave like a startup, behave like a business owner. That's not evolution. It might even be revolution, because we've passed days where compliance is completely safe and that's where the money is. I'm not saying compliance is dead, but we're hearing more and more about the CAS movement, the accounting advisory services, client advisory services, that whole move into project consulting based future thinking accounting services. That's where this is going, and AI is playing its part in this. So today I want to do a pivot to the entrepreneurial movement that's happening in accounting firms. It started in corporate world, this phrase intrapreneur, which is the innovative business owner type idea creation person within a corporate environment. And it's a pivot that perhaps should be happening a little bit more often, but it isn't. And it's safe to say that the role of accounting wrapped up in double entry bookkeeping, heavy regulation, control, we know that's the case. But if your firm is allergic to risk, if there's a culture of not trying things, not acting like an entrepreneur, you're not just behind, you're probably on the endangered list, because your clients are business owners, your clients are entrepreneurs, they think like entrepreneurs, and you most likely are not, unless you've reached out, started your own fractional business or your own firm. So historically, we know the accounting profession has kept innovation at arm's length. We don't generally put the phrase creative and accountant together. There's too many errors take place there. But we want to focus on doing right. We want to focus on binary and what's correct and right or wrong. We want to follow standards, apply the rules. That's the mindset of accountants. Reduce exposure, maximize efficiency. Caution is rewarded. Consistency is promoted. And that's not the vocabulary of an entrepreneur. And a lot of partners, don't get me wrong, have built very successful firms doing exactly that. But this is the point. The game's changing. The world's changed. Clients have changed. Expectations have changed. So the clients of accounting firms are not asking themselves, can you do my audit, my tax return accurately? They're asking themselves, can you solve my business problems? Can you help me grow? Can you help me navigate an uncertain future? And with all of those uncertainties becomes a need for more entrepreneurial thinking. And the winners in this new era are generally not the most compliant. They're the most flexible, the most adaptive, the most agile, the most creative, the most commercial, dare I say, the most entrepreneurial. And this shift is not optional. If you want to be locked in a dark room and just do technical and compliance and everything else, there may be a market for you. However, that market is diminishing. If you've taken private equity money, or you plan to, you've got to start thinking like a founder. You've got to start thinking like an entrepreneur and not a functionary, not an employee, not just a cog in the wheel. So private equity, they've exposed the game in accounting. They're pouring money into firms because they see it as industry right for reinvention. But there's a cost to that because they're not just buying cash flow and a book of business, they're buying potential. And so they expect innovation, they expect creativity, they expect scale, they expect growth, strategic growth, they expect productization, automation, new revenue streams. All of that is a mindset of a business owner, a business thinker. So you've got to act like you are the partner in a firm of which you own, and you are growing the business and you are thinking like the owner of that business rather than just an employee. Now, if you haven't taken the private equity money and you're staying independent, that's great, but the pressure is still there because the firms around you, whether they've got private equity resource or funds from elsewhere, they're getting faster, leaner, more aggressive. And that's how entrepreneurs think. They're not waiting to see what sticks. They're building, they're testing, they're pivoting, they're acting more like tech companies than traditional accounting partnerships. This is what you're up against. And don't get me wrong, I'm not asking that every accountant starts thinking like Elon Musk or insert your own entrepreneur of choice there. I'm not sure if Elon Musk is the flavor of the month right now, but I'm saying that the profession and the people in it need to stop pretending that being entrepreneurial is someone else's job. It's not the CEO's job. It's not the private equity's job. It's not the maverick accountants and the rainmakers' job. It's everyone's job. And it's not just reserved, this entrepreneurial mindset, it's not just reserved for the flashy startups or the product companies or the tech startups. It's everyone's responsibility now to start thinking more entrepreneurially. I'm not saying rip up the rule book, but you've got to start thinking about new ideas and ways of making things better and ways of improving and thinking about growth and new opportunities. Yeah, rainmaking, bringing in work becomes part of that, but it's not necessarily launching the next big app, but it's rethinking your client's problems. And that means turning spreadsheets into recurring revenue tools. It means creating new service lines before your competitors do. It means seeing opportunities before they arrive. That's what entrepreneurs do. They turn nothing into something, into a solution, into an app, into a build, into a project, into a service line. And you've got to, if you're a leader in a firm, give people permission to try things, test things, hear them out with their ideas. And yeah, they're going to fail at some things, but it's letting them loose and trying stuff. This creates a culture of entrepreneurship. It's not necessarily chaos, but it's how the good firms future-proof themselves and how they empower their people to think a little bit differently. Problem is, too many firms, they get stuck. They get trapped by legacy systems, legacy software, legacy thinking, legacy leadership. They cling to the billable hour. They shut down any ideas that don't fit with the owner's, the partner's worldview. They measure performance in time spent, not on value created. And then they wonder why innovation is DOA, dead on arrival. I love that phrase, very American phrase. So it's time to start calling this what it is. If I'm bold, is it fear? Are we afraid of not being an accountant or losing our identity as an accountant? Accountants, technically super smart, qualifications, studied really hard, really bright people, extremely capable, very good problem solvers, very good at adapting to new laws and regulation, everything else. But we and you, I'm a part qualified accountant, former high school math teacher, but we've been conditioned to avoid risk and mitigate risk, and quite rightly. But entrepreneurship in itself is risky, isn't it? It's messy. It doesn't come with a checklist. It's uncomfortable. You're in unknown territory, but it is the path forward. If you want to relate to your clients a lot more, they are entrepreneurs. They're building things, they're creating things, they're doing things differently, and they want an accounting advisor that can relate to that. I speak to accounting leaders all the time, and they say, we want to grow, but we don't know how. We're fine as we are. Our clients are happy. We don't risk getting rid of some clients. All of this is slow thinking, slow death, because someone else out there in an accounting firm is probably figuring out what to do better than you, faster than you, cheaper than you. I interviewed somebody just recently, and they were saying, I wish accountants were a lot more entrepreneurial, because I came out of a Big Four firm because I was restricted by the structure there, and they wouldn't take on ideas that I had to build new businesses within the business. So you've got to look to move beyond the status quo, move beyond traditional services and into more of a solution-based approach. This is where you will add best value to your clients. So these intrapreneurs, as we call them, people inside an employed environment and in a secure salaried role, they've got a paycheck still, they've got responsibility still, they've got targets to hit. Yeah, but these are people, and it could be you, that you spot inefficiencies, you see new opportunities, you want to build something, you want to try something, you want a bit of free rein to experiment a little bit, you want to explore. Not everyone wants to be a partner. Not everyone wants to go through that hierarchical way of getting to the top, but people do want to make a difference. They want to make an impact. So are you getting the room you need? Are you getting the resources you need? Are people getting out of your way and backing you? Or if you are the leader and you've got people around you that want to explore things, are you giving them the space, the resources to create something? It's, yes, a shift from time-based billing to outcome-based pricing, but that's been happening in the accounting world for some time now. So what products could you launch? What niche advisory package could you bring into the market? A virtual CFO tool, software as a service, CFO as a service, tech support as a service, benchmarking reports that turn into monthly subscriptions, R&D opportunities. The return might not be immediate for all of these things, and you might have to suck it and see. You might have to try before you buy, kind of thing. You've got to dip your toes in the water. You've got to have some skin in the game. You've got to buy a ticket to the lottery if you want to win. And it all sounds risky, doesn't it? And chance and luck and everything else. But it is. In the UK, we call it taking a punt. You might have that from American football. You've got to give it a go. You've got to be in the game. You've got to buy a ticket. You've got to treat your firm not like a machine or a salary producing entity, but more like a laboratory, a testing ground, a incubation unit. And for leaders, you've got to show up different. You've got to set an example. You've got to be willing to try things yourself and show that it's okay to have a go at things. So entrepreneurial leaders, they don't manage what is, they manage what could be. And yeah, the consequences of failure, I understand that, but you've got to reward action. You can't keep clinging to the past. We've got to stay modern, up to date. We've got to be future focused. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Good. Yes, it feels strange. That's good too, because that's where the growth happens, outside your comfort zone. And I get it that you don't just get into accounting to take big risks. You want some stability, you want clarity, you want predictability. But your clients don't want all of that. They want some strategic insight. They want some strategic growth. They want some out-of-the-box thinking, to quote the cliche. They want you to help them navigate murky waters and certain economic conditions. They want you as their advisor to anticipate what's next, not just report on what's already happened. And firms that don't deliver that, they're going to die. They're going to wither away. They're going to become irrelevant inevitably. Might be slow, might be quiet. So if you're listening thinking we need to make a pivot here, or I need to break out a little bit from the mold that I'm in, I'm going to give you 5 or 6 takeaways from this podcast as we bring it into land. Number 1, start by creating some space. Innovation doesn't happen in those 6-minute increments that you build in. So if you're a leader, give people time to think, to build, to test, to make it safe for them to try. When you're doing your meetings, saying to them, what are you working on? What ideas have you got to grow the business? Is there anything you're particularly passionate in? Give them that space in your reviews, in your one-to-ones, and in their schedule to try something. Number 2, change what you celebrate. We tend to celebrate a job well done, don't we? And we praise efficiency, but are we rewarding originality, creativity, courage? Does that come up anywhere in your comp structure? Even if it's just verbal, visual recognition, it doesn't have to be financial, but change what you celebrate and start to reward people for doing different things, entrepreneurial behaviors. That's what you should be rewarding. Number 3, bring entrepreneurial voices into leadership meetings, externals. experts in all kinds of things, people that have built things. They don't have to be multi-millionaires, but there are so many great people in your client base right now that would bring some perspective to your leadership meetings and expose your rainmakers and your number crunchers to the builders and bring them in, ask them questions, talk about ideation, talk about trying and failing. So bring those external voices in to mentor and inspire your people. And if you can't bring them in, then you go out to them and network and try and meet them and have different conversations with them. Number 4, rewire your incentives. So I talked earlier about your bonus systems in terms of changing what you celebrate. But here I'm talking specifically about if your bonus structure just rewards billable hours, don't act surprised when nobody innovates, because they will play the game. They'll give you billable hours. So can you bring some kind of incentives, bonuses, commissions, anything like that in for people that are willing to try something? Number 5, talk to your clients differently. See them as sources of entrepreneurial inspiration. Ask them what, I mean, it's a bit of a cliche, isn't it? What keeps them up at night? But I love asking the question, what's the biggest thing you're working on right now? You don't need to charge them to ask that question. Just pick the phone up or ask them an email. What's the big project for this year? What's exciting the most at the moment? What's the biggest challenge right now? All of these answers give you opportunities. What did they wish existed that hasn't come about yet? What's nobody else helping them with? And then go help them build that. This co-creation, collaboration. Help people create stuff together. They've got the problem. You might have some solutions. What do you need to invent? You don't need to be an inventor, but you do need to come up with ideas. And finally, number 6, entrepreneurial thinking. It's not just a department. It's not just a value on your website. It's not a project. It's more of a culture, isn't it? It's a mindset. It's a muscle. You've got to exercise it. You've got to train it. You've got to feed it. You've got to allow it to grow. So you can't just bring something in and then give it a treatment once a year at a partner session. You've got to bake it into the DNA of your firm and model it as a leader with examples. So that's it for today. Here's the bottom line as I wrap this up. We are in a world where technology is eating up compliance and AI is taking over everything. We're in a world where private equity is setting the pace and changing the way we run accounting businesses. We're in a world where accountants have ever-increasing expectations. They demand more strategic value. Entrepreneurial thinking in this world is not a luxury. It is a necessity. So if you're still playing not to lose, it's very dangerous. It's too risky to play it safe now. So while others are playing to win, don't be surprised when you wake up one day and the game's totally moved on without you. So we've got to think more entrepreneurially. That's how you maintain your relevance and your influence. It's not about taking reckless risks. It's about seeing opportunities, assessing those opportunities, good risk management, solving problems, creating value. This is what the great accountants have always done. They've found a way to pivot on that. And that's what you need to remember. It's not just about the numbers. It's about what you do with the numbers and the stories you tell behind that and what you're building. So thanks for tuning in. If this episode of the Accounting Influencers podcast has got you thinking, then do share it with somebody. And we are asking you to start the conversation. Ask people about what being an entrepreneur means. Challenge the status quo. That's what good influencers do. And let me challenge you right now. What's one bold thing you could try this quarter that feels a little bit more risky, a little bit more courageous, a bit scary, a bit more entrepreneurial? Because that's where your future might start, in being more of an intrapreneur than just an employed accounting professional. Have a great day.